Good afternoon, Mayor and Council members. My name is Judy Edwards, and I'm the daughter of Lovie Edwards. My sister, Faye Northcutt, couldn't be here today. I flew in from New York to speak on behalf of my mother, who's 80 years old. She's lived in Austin for more than 50 years, and I recall my mother advocating to bring many services to Montopolis: lights, streets, libraries, buses, and more. And now I'm here to advocate for her and others in her situation. My mother's home was almost destroyed and received major damage during the flood last year in October. She almost lost all of her belongings. So here we are. First, we're trying to help my mother rebuild her home, but she has not been able to get the funding needed to restore her home. My mother has worked hard all of her life in Austin homes, schools, hospitals, and eventually retiring from the Travis County Sheriff's Department. She earned slightly too much to qualify for city, county, and state and federal services, as she doesn't qualify for special grants or low-interest loans that were made available to rebuild and restore homes. And I'm sure there are many Austinites in her same position. And I'm asking the city to consider granting an exemption or exception to assist my mother and those others who are in similar situation. She needs to be able to return to her home as soon as possible, and we desperately need your help to make it possible. Secondly, I'm urging the City of Austin to provide funding in this year's budget to correct flooding and drainage problems that caused my mother's home to flood, as well as others on the street and the community to flood and lose almost everything. There is evidence that the drains are too small and they should have been changed or enlarged way back in the 70s, and that the city had known or should have been aware of the problem. But being predominantly African American and Hispanic neighborhood, we've been neglected. And no major capital improvement projects have been taking place in our neighborhood, but of course, along outside of our neighborhood, Riverside Drive and 183. Given the urgency of this matter, we're asking that the city help us now before it's too late, because the rains will come again. Mayor and city council members, put yourself in our shoes. Please don't forget about Montopolis. We can't afford to wait. And finally, this year in April, Councilmember Renteria threw me and my mother out of his office. My mother's a senior citizen. We came to ask him for help. We expressed to him that we wanted my mom to be able to live in her home, safe, where she could rest every night, just like his family. And I believe that that's what he would want if it was his mother. And she has not been able to return to his home, and he was rude and disrespectful. Councilmember Renteria, I believe you abused the power of your office and treated my mother and I with total disrespect and disregard. It was unacceptable for you to show the monumental lack of concern for my mother, your constituents, and the Montopolis neighborhood you were elected to represent. I'm asking on behalf of my mother and the residents of Montopolis, please don't do that again. Do the job you were elected to do and help the constituents, and do not disrespect your senior citizens. We need your support for the items I've requested. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. I think you said that your sister, Lovie Edwards, is not here.
My sister, Audrey Northcutt, is not here, but my mother, Lovie Edwards, is here.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Mayor and council members. I am Lovie Edwards, and I am 80 years old plus. Now, I've lived and worked here for over 60 years. My home is in the Montopolis area, where I have lived for over 50 years. My home is now unlivable and awaiting repairs due to the flood that occurred last October, which caused major damage to my home. Almost everything I worked for and owned was lost or destroyed. And I'm coming to the city to please ask for your help. First, I'm begging the city to provide funding in this year's budget to correct flooding and drainage problems that caused our street to flood, and which caused the damage to my home and other homes on our street. Second, I'm asking the city to consider granting exemptions to enable me and other people like me to qualify for low-interest loans or grants to help us rebuild. I am trying to rebuild my home, but I have not been able to do so because the damage is so bad, and I have not been able to get any help to rebuild from the city or state agency or FEMA. Over the years, along with other members of our community, I worked tirelessly with the city and state, including Mr. Doggett, to help bring library services, street lights, paved roads, and buses and community sources to Montopolis. I'm asking the city of Austin, please, please do not forget about Montopolis. Finally, I want to tell you how disappointed and hurt I am about the way I was treated by Councilman Renteria in April of this year, when he threw me out of his office for simply asking for help for our community after the flood that caused major damage to my home and resulted in the loss of almost everything I own and work for. Please, Council Member Renteria, we need your support. Don't disrespect any more of the people you're supposed to protect. And please don't disrespect any more senior citizens. I sincerely thank each of you for your time and consideration.
If you need any information, we do have some diagrams from the city that show this flood happened in our particular neighborhood as a result of the convergence of the water caused by the inadequate drains that are currently there. Thank you.
Thank you.